Hello and welcome back to SnowRunner, y'all. And in this video, I'm going to be reminding you how in-depth you can actually get still with some of the rig setups that you can build in this game using all of the mods that are still available on the mod browser. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. And before we get any further, I do want to let y'all know that everything I've used in this video honestly should be available on just about all consoles. I don't necessarily think there's any consoles that aren't on this list, apart from, obviously, there could be some discrepancies in terms of Switch mods, but Switch mods are always kind of the exception, and if you're looking for anything super specific, I recommend going on your mod browser if you are on Switch and searching up the mod by name after checking the description box down below. And as I went in to do this video, I found a lot of customization options on this Ford, for example, that I didn't even know were really even a thing. I had no idea that a lot of these customization options even existed. I mean, obviously, I knew about the bumpers and the switchable grills and things like that, but I hadn't really spent enough time with this truck to see a lot of the other options that are kind of buried beneath the surface, and a lot of those options end up going completely unused by, honestly, a lot of people that use these mods. So if you usually build pretty much the same configuration with either this truck or a lot of other mods, honestly, I would recommend changing up your configurations, because by the time you get out of the garage, you might find that you've got a totally new configuration that you really, really like that you never knew you had access to before. Because when it comes down to building a lot of these trucks, it's all about experimentation, right? It's all about experimenting with one option over here and then another option over here, and then maybe mixing them together, and then maybe saying to yourself, oh, either I really like that, or wow, that doesn't work at all, and I'm going to completely redo the setup. Which, if that's the solution you come to, that you're going to redo the setup, I don't know, whatever. You used like 30 seconds of your time to experiment with customization, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, then whatever. And I honestly had never done any of the flatbed builds or the hauler builds that are available with this truck. So once I was kind of like, you know what? I feel like I should probably experiment a little bit more with this. I don't know. It opened up a lot of potential, especially in terms of the types of trucks you could build. And yes, before you say it, yes, I know that the color matched red is super over the top. The color matched red is so over the top. It's honestly like, it's so incredibly over the top, in fact, that like the more I look at it, the more I wonder if I should have actually done that setup. I mean, it's very, very, very in your face. And then again, it kind of goes along with the vibe that I've kind of been going with this entire setup anyway. So, and you'll see a little bit later, the vehicles that we were picking up, or rather the vehicles that we were hauling out to the bog, are kind of in that same vein of, not necessarily extreme, well, they're extreme when you compare them to your standard vehicles. But I guess in the realm of SnowRunner, you're always going to have people that will see a vehicle that would be super over the top and extreme in the real world, and then people will see it as a SnowRunner mod and they'll go, you call that extreme? That's tame. That's so tame. What the hell are you talking about? And I mean, y'all know this thing. Y'all absolutely all know this thing. And that's why I rushed through the build, because I was like, you know what? So many people have seen this side by side. So many people know exactly what it looks like. And it's honestly not even a vehicle that I would look at personally and go, yeah, I need more laps in that. This was more as something to just put on the trailer, because you need to fill up your trailer. Like, if you're going to do an adventure like this anyway, and you have a lot of these vehicles at your disposal, you might as well like put the tow rig to work. And then the next truck that I decided to pick up, almost feels like, even though it's not that old of a mod, it almost feels like we dug it out of the history books, because this version is kind of a remaster of an older truck that Limes built a long time ago. So seeing as this truck is already a bit of a remaster kind of makes me nostalgic for the older version of the same truck, if that even remotely makes sense at all. And I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. If it does, great. If it doesn't make any sense and you think that is just, some random thought of mine, then that also works. But I'm getting off topic. I'm getting actually really, really far off topic. I was originally going to color match this thing to the red of the tow rig as well as the side-by-side. And then I was like, you know what? The black and the purple color combination that it comes with as sort of default actually looks really, really good. And so I wasn't really all that worried about upsetting the sort of color balance between all of the others, and I initially wanted a whole color matched setup, and then I was like, it's not all that worth it. I also forgot how incredibly loud this truck was. I mean, it's so much louder than either of the other two. I mean, the side-by-side is pretty loud comparatively as far as like volume balancing goes, and then if you compare it to the F450, the F450 is like, it's super quiet. It's like, standard traffic car quiet compared to, honestly, both of the rigs on the trailer. And now we finally get to actually drive out there. And this was my first time doing any sort of, almost like you would call it proper, air quotes, towing. I think the reason why I haven't really focused on doing any towing with this truck is because I don't know, I've kind of just been using it for all sorts of other things, and I didn't really think a lot of people would be all that interested in seeing this thing haul. And then I thought about it a little more, and I was like, it is a 450, and the primary use for it, at least in the real world, is going to be towing anyway. So I think sometimes, depending on what people use their trucks for in SnowRunner, it doesn't always cross with what people would use that truck for, obviously, in the real world. So I was always a little bit back and forth on whether or not people would want to see this thing towing, or if people would just think that was like boring. But I don't know. You let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see more towing focused content, especially with this truck, but other trucks are on the table for that as well. Although I do have to say, the transmission tuning in this truck absolutely impressed me so much. It impressed me so much not only because it was super smooth, but it also just held whatever gear you wanted it to, even while loaded, even while going up a hill, which is super outside of the norm for, honestly, just any SnowRunner mod in general. But like a truck like this, normally they're sort of gear hunting all over the place, but this one not even remotely in its wheelhouse. And I mean, I always knew that John Hot Rod's transmission tuning was really good, although I will entirely admit that I forgot how good the towing tuning was, specifically when you use the tow-tuned transmissions. And so to test it, I just threw it at one of the steepest hills on this map, which is coincidentally one of the steeper hills on any mod map, and just decided to completely send it up the hill and see how far it would get. And it honestly got really, really far before, gravity just kind of took over, and that was sort of the end of that. But we got so much farther than I genuinely thought we would be able to. And because of that, I don't know, that thing just genuinely impressed me a lot more than I thought it would. And then from here on, it's just kind of pure, I don't even know if I would call it nostalgia, because these experiences were not necessarily that old of experiences that, we were having for the first time in SnowRunner, because a lot of these, mudding maps and vehicles and stuff like that still came out within the past couple of years. And I think a lot of people are still, they act like they are nostalgic for these maps and nostalgic for these vehicles. And I'm like, it's not like these came out like 5 or 10 years ago. But even then, I still see a lot of nostalgia for early SnowRunner kind of in my comment section sometimes on various social media platforms, where people are like, oh, I wish the game was still like, and then insert X time period here. Now, I will say that SnowRunner definitely had a dramatic change about halfway through its life cycle when there was a lot of unrest, shall we say, in the modding community, which caused a lot of segmentation and people going separate ways, and there was a lot of hostility across the community, which I think definitely contributed to not as many mods getting released. But I don't know, I definitely think that had an effect on the player base as well, but I do think I underestimated how many people would be nostalgic for sort of that early SnowRunner time period. And of course, you can let me know in the comments down below if you also felt like you were nostalgic for a certain time period in this game's history that you don't necessarily feel it exists in anymore. But I don't know. As we tumble down this hill, let me know your thoughts and opinions on that in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, do all the things, and I'll see y'all next time.